Well. Greetings again from King Edward VII Hospital. Glorious King Edward VII Hospital, which I have to say is such a lovely hospital. Wonderful staff, wonderful food, wonderful everything. Clean as a whistle. Can't sing its praises highly enough. So I am going to plunge in with what Octavia says. I hope this gives all of Lady C's wonderful viewers some hope, but I am a Generation Z viewer. I'm in my mid to late 20s, yet I agree with almost everything Lady C says. My family is very traditional, and I would call myself a liberal conservative. Me too. I can't stand the woke nonsense. Long live Lady C. I hope she is reunited with her fur babies soon. Fingers crossed, tomorrow is the day. Fingers crossed. Tomorrow I return home and I will see my babysitters and I will be so overjoyed. Oh, can't wait. I'm a celeb too, says Lady C. As the standout all-time star of I'm a Celebrity, my head is about to explode. Sorry. Thank you very much for that. Thank you. Well, not everybody would agree. But I think Ant and Dec sort of agree with you. At least so they told me. So, without further ado, let me continue to stop interrupting myself. What do you make of calls for Ruby Wax to be chucked out of camp for being rude to her fellow contestants? And what do you make... Oh, that's another question, so I'll ask it separately. I can't believe it. I gather that Ruby Wax, who incidentally I've met, I don't really know her, but I've met her and she's absolutely charming. And she's a delight and she's a very good comedian. And she's funny. She likes being funny. She likes playing up to the camera. She's a comedian. I gather there have been some complaints because she said to someone, if you could just get out of my way because there are cameras there. She's sending herself up, for goodness sake. I mean, she's making a joke of the fact that half the contestants, 11/12ths, 15/16ths of the contestants are invariably so playing to the gallery, so aware of being on. She's saying, I'm sending myself up. I'm actually calling time on the game that everybody else is going to be playing. I think it's ludicrous that they want to get rid of her. Nowadays, does everybody have to be cloyingly, anodyingly, and quite frankly, boringly, so superficially agreeable that there's not even room for a joke? And also, quite frankly, what's wrong with a little bit of frisson of excitement? Okay, there's a second part to the question. What do you make of Trevor Engelson's comment to Bethany Frankel about his ex-wife Meghan? I thought it was very unflattering. I thought it was very apposite. Evidently, Trevor Engelson and Bethany Frankel stepped out once or twice. And this was at a time when Meghan and Harry were going out. And Bethany Frankel asked him, did he think she was going to close with Harry? And he said, oh, she'll close. He knew all about Meghan's wiliness and Meghan's determination and Meghan's absolute focus on achieving what she wants at all times. She did it with him and she did it with others. As Meghan's father said, Meghan always gets her man. Now, there are certain techniques that she has. Oh, did you just hear that Stan Getz song? I so love it. What's the name of it again? Blowing in the Wind. I do wish I could play it. Meghan has many talents, evidently. Determination is one of them. Trevor Engelson knew what he was dealing with, and he knew what Harry would be dealing with. I wonder if Harry's going to get in touch with Trevor one of these days. Although I suspect he's not going to, is he? Because he's not going to want to hear the truth. Hence why he's never going to get in touch with Meghan's father either. God forbid he should hear the truth. RDB says, could you provide us with a rational explanation of how it is that the former Prince Andrew, who has broken no laws and never betrayed the royal family or his nation, can be stripped of his princely rank, while his nephew Harry, who has accused the royal family and the British people of racism, despite all evidence to the contrary, is still Prince Harry? Yes, this is a question that seems to perturb a lot of people. The rational explanation: Andrew's offences have been of a more unpopular nature. Sarah is not mixed race. Andrew was a genuine war hero. Harry wasn't. The family has had to protect itself against the possibility of further exposure of malfeasance on the part of former Prince Andrew and Sarah. It's not only about Epstein, it's also about shady financial dealings, which of course that involves Epstein as well. But Epstein is not exclusive to it. They cast a net far and wide, and they obviously thought they could get away with things that they haven't got away with. sorry, the chickens have come home to roost. Harry has accused his family of racism. That, in the eyes of many people, is treachery and traitorous. But that's not in the eyes of everybody. Also, the family has needed to take into account that Meghan and her followers would be accusing them of racism at every turn. Couldn't accuse Sarah and Andrew of racism. So, does that explain it? Let's see how much longer Harry Mountbatten-Windsor remains Prince Harry. Ayahuasca, ayahuasca, ayahuasca. Oh, ayahuasca, ayahuasca, ayahuasca. Doria, superb weed. I think when some of those piggies start to fly, Harry and Meghan are going to have an awful lot of gnashing of teeth. Oh, I don't know what you think, but I think the name Meghan Markle is perfectly adequate for Meghan Markle. I'm not even sure that Meghan Mountbatten-Windsor is going to be that awful either. If they were really clever, they'd get ahead of the curve. He'd put his titles into abeyance. That's what he'd do. He would beat them to the punch. The only problem is, how's that going to work? Because I've got to be a duchess. I've got to be a duchess. Titles don't mean anything to me. That's why I wore white when I got married, because I'm totally consistent and authentic. I was a virgin. Absolutely. That's why I could wear white. Titles have never mattered to me. That's why I always insist that everybody calls me Your Royal Highness, followed by ma'am. I mean, after all, do you know what I have had to do to end up being a duchess? I mean, come on. Give a girl a break. Have a heart, you know. I tell you, all those Stan Getz songs, really. They're quite enough to drive a girl to want to march in the Colombian forests. I hope those of you who are reading between the lines are reading between the lines. Venus Rising says, "Hi, Lady C. So glad you look so much better. Your sass is back. In my opinion, Epstein. No idea if he considered Andrew and Sarah a threat, but this is high stakes poker. It is notable he was arrested the 6th of July 2019 and no longer with us by the 10th of August 2019, lasting 34 days. There are potential high-level explosive consequences for the wealthy, powerful, and other world leaders that go beyond personal accountability. It could be destabilizing, absolutely. That's why Trump, the Department of Justice, and the FBI have pumped the brakes. They're trying to limit the now inevitable damage. It's about to hit the fan. I said some time ago that the Epstein matter is being played for domestic and international political reasons. And we live in extremely interesting times. And some of the most powerful men and a few women on earth are caught up in the Epstein debacle. I agree with Alan Dershowitz. Reveal all. Let the chips fall where they may. Let the guilty squirm, squiggle, and cut deals. Many people have nothing to fear, save the fact that their names have been dragged in to the melee. And as long as there is not full disclosure, they are going to be subject to suspicion where there should be none. I have tried to point out time and again that Jeffrey Epstein was not quite the flagrant perv publicly that people now seem to think he was. That's not to say he wasn't a flagrant perv privately. But publicly, no. He mixed at the highest level internationally. He had many political connections, primarily in the Democratic wing of the American establishment, but not reserved to them exclusively. He also had superb contacts in Israel and in Europe. Remember, he flew from France to America, and he thought he was absolutely perfectly safe and above touchability. It profits you to ask, who stood to gain the most? Let's leave it at that for the moment. And also, who stood to lose the most? Whose political ambitions would have been threatened by Jeffrey Epstein's continuing existence? And now I am going to read what, Maria Gillingson says. Sorry about that. Adjusting position can be tiresome. Dear Lady Colin Campbell, what do you think about Starmer saying that people without a digital ID won't be able to work in England? Is he not aware that half of England work cash in hand? So is that just an excuse to justify putting the digital ID in place for all the law-abiding citizens? Because, in my opinion, this will just push more people to hide in plain sight. Keir Starmer is a control freak. Many of our politicians nowadays are of the considered view that the way to control people is to deprive us of cash, to gain control over all our spending habits and activities, and do what they do in China. When you don't like what somebody's doing, you simply say to them, well, sorry, your card isn't working. It's not going to work until you're a good girl or boy. There are 1,000 reasons why a digital ID is a good idea, and there are 1,000,000 reasons why it's a bad idea. Will it push more people into the black economy? Maybe, maybe not. I certainly would not be having a digital ID. Why should I? I'm dead against them. I'm dead against anything that leads to the loss of our civil liberties. And digital IDs are a step in that direction. We are already sufficiently probed and policed in this country. Are you aware of the fact that we have something like 100 times per annum more prosecutions for social media offences than the whole of Russia, notwithstanding the fact that Russia is a much larger country with a much larger population and incidentally supposed to be far less free than us. I wish Mickey and Aurora were nearby to bring me some Coke so that I could quench my thirst and get rid of my parched throat. Mr. Me says, what do you make of the goss that they and others rent Montecito when they do videos, advertising, etc., that she actually lives in a condo owned by the king? Hazzy lives elsewhere, and the children, lucky them, live with their parents. It seems awfully plausible. Perhaps it's wishful thinking. Perhaps it's piggy flying. I think you'll discover it's piggy flying. I don't know where some of this guff comes from. Of course, Meghan and Harry don't spend every night together. Of course, many married couples, and I'm being very careful how I put this, have little bolt holes so that they can get away from each other when the heat becomes too great. The idea that they do not own the Montecito house is farcical. They bought it on a mortgage. Why falsify those papers? That's one thing. She lives in a condo. She may spend a lot of time in a condo. I do hope Gordon Getty isn't nearby. It would be too awful if Gordon were tempted to rescue Meg's baby by buying her the $40 million house that she'd like in Malibu. As for the idea that the children live with their natural parents, I have said time and again that those children, sorry, I'm in a bit of pain, sorry, it's no big deal. One just trucks along. I mean, it's not exactly joyous, but, oh, sorry. Sorry, it is tiresome. I need to get slightly more comfortable. Sometimes a millimeter makes all the difference. Those children are indubitably Harry's. They live with Harry and Meghan. They do not live with what people purport to be their natural mothers or parents. They live with Meghan. I'm just so Julia Roberts. And Harry. Doria, bring me some more weed. Where do these ridiculous things gain traction? I mean, Meghan and Harry are sufficiently farcical without us needing to add an additional layer of false farcicality. Laura Wyeth says, and I gather Laura Wyeth is related to the famous painters. Dear Lady C, I think the whole photos of Rachel Ragland being removed from Kris Jenner and Kim Kardashian's social media was a manufactured drama. The Kardashians can use it as a storyline. It kept the D-list 5-minute Duchess in the news. And I can see Kris Jenner and Rachel Zane being in cahoots for Kris Jenner producing a reality show on the two faux royals. What are your thoughts? Well, my initial gut feeling was that it was not exactly a setup, but that it would become a setup. That Megsy baby couldn't resist doing the dirty, and that Kris, once she had time to think and get over the insult and the rage that she will doubtless have felt, that Meghan actually made false claims about the basis upon which the guests were at the party, that she would come to terms with it, and that she would basically feel, oh well, you know, do a sort of Gwyneth Paltrow. We're bigger than all of this. Oh, the question is, to what extent do Meghan and Harry and the Jenner Kardashians need each other? Now, the Jenner Kardashian caravan has been on the steps of Russia for an awfully long time. In fact, it could be rattling along to Borodin's tunes. But they have peaked to an extent. They are not as popular as they used to be. They do not command the degree and intensity of attention and interest that they once did. They are less on the slide than Harry and Meghan, but they are all heading in the same direction. So, is it of mutual benefit? Yes. Was it totally calculatedly created? I doubt it. These things usually aren't. So much as, in my opinion, Megsy Baby says, well, I'm just looking too desperate. And H is just looking even more desperate. I mean, he's practically begging Kris Jenner for a B job. I mean, you just look on his face, Kris, please just give me one. And he looks stoned, and I don't like it. So she makes her demands, and they are met. And I suspect they might well have caused a bit of offence, but not so much that all the participants didn't realise that it's a win-win for them all, because they've got far more attention than they would otherwise have got. Now, whether Kris Jenner likes being humiliated or not is another matter. I would imagine she's the sort of woman who doesn't like being humiliated. And you can depend on it that even if today and tomorrow it is in her interest to use Meghan and to have Meghan use her, any day it's not in her interest. The shutters will come clattering down, and Megsy Baby is going to be toast. Jessica Mulrooney, what are we going to do about this? Please, what are we going to do about this? Should we ring up Kris Jenner and give her tips on how to cope? Maybe we should just ask Bethany Frankel to post something on her latest podcast. She seems to have her finger very firmly on the pulse. It's entertainment. Let's not forget that. It's entertainment. And these are people who basically will do practically anything. And let's remember, Kris Jenner is pretty unembarrassable. Let's remember how her daughter started out. Let's remember how Kris assisted her daughter in mounting a trajectory. Oh, no, I'm shy. No, I can't, I'm shy. I can't show it. Since when it's been shown left, right, and centre, everywhere. These are people who will do anything, break any rule of social decorum if they think it suits them and advances their case, which is all about fame and money. They and Meghan have a lot in common. Will Meghan end up doing a show with them? It's not as far-fetched as it might seem, but I'm not so sure that it will fly very high. They're all heading in the same direction, ever increasing oblivion. People are sick and tired of too much pretentiousness, which may be the Kardashian saving grace, because they're just frankly sour and frankly appalling and frankly tasteless, but frankly hardworking and frankly professional. Meghan, frankly a failure. And on that note, I'll say thank you very much for listening. Please keep the questions and comments coming in so I will know what you would like us to be speaking about. Okay? Thank you. Godspeed. And if you have truly enjoyed this, would you care to like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and hype? Thank you so much. Bye-bye.